place, but they were pushed to the limit.
हमने पूरा विश्वास है कि इसमें निष्पक्ष जांच होगी और जो खिलाड़ियों की सुरक्षा की बात है, चाहे वो किसी तरह की बात है कि वो मंत्री जी ने बोला कि वो हमारी जिम्मेवारी है। हमारा खेल काफ़ी ऊपर गया है, हम भी नहीं चाहते थे कि ये प्रोटेस्ट करें, पर हमारी भी मजबूरी थी कि भाई इतना पानी सर से ऊपर चला गया था कि हम अभी खिलाड़ी प्रोटेस्ट को बंद कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि हमें सरकार ने आश्वासन दिया कि आपके साथ न्याय होगा।
BJP President JP Nadda addressed a public rally in pole-bound Karnataka today. He hit out at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi over the Bharat Jodo Yatra. Nadda said that when the Prime Minister visited Karnataka, he encouraged and showcased the state's culture, while Rahul Gandhi is walking with those who contributed in dividing India.
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जब कर्नाटक में आते हैं तो कर्नाटक में वो कर्नाटक की परंपरा की हमेशा जिन लोगों ने भारत को तोड़ने में अपना योगदान किया है, वही राहुल गांधी के दाएं बाएं दिखते हैं।
More than 300 eminent citizens have penned a strongly worded letter against the BBC documentary on the 2002 Gujarat riots. Several retired judges, armed forces veterans, former diplomats are all part of the signatories to this letter. They have called this documentary as delusional and lopsided reporting.
The BBC has a troubled record in dealing with India because it appears to have a colonial mindset with regard to India. And from time to time this surfaces, and this particular documentary of 2 parts was a visible example of the fact that although it's a public broadcasting service, it does these programs.
Welcome back. This is CNN News 18. You're watching it with me, Griha. We're getting some breaking news. This one's coming in from the state of Tamil Nadu. BJP member Jagadisan has been arrested in the Kanchipuram district of Tamil Nadu for making derogatory remarks about Chief Minister M.K. Stalin. Meanwhile, the BJP have upped their ante against the Stalin government in the state, and they have now questioned the double standards of the police, as there have been no action that's been taken against Shivaji Krishnamurthy over his controversial statements about Governor R.N. Ravi, and swift action was taken in Jagdishan's case. So we will try and ascertain as to what are the kind of comments that have led to the arrest of BJP member Jagdishan. He in fact was arrested in the Kanchipuram district of Tamil Nadu, and this was done after he had made some controversial, rendered derogatory remarks about the Chief Minister M.K. Stalin. And after this arrest, of course, there is controversy that has erupted, with the BJP now questioning the action and the intent of the police in the state of Tamil Nadu, where there was nothing that was done against Shivaji Krishnamurthy, even as he spoke about Governor R.N. Ravi in bad light. However, the action against Jagdishan has been taken swiftly. We'll try and get my colleague Purnima to exactly put this into perspective for our viewers as to what exactly did Jagdishan say about Chief Minister Stalin for him to get arrested by the police in Kanchipuram. However, this is what we are picking up, the latest as to the BJP member Mr. Jagdishan arrested in Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu, and this after it made some derogatory comments against Chief Minister M.K. Stalin. Remember how in the past where there was the controversy which is to do with the Governor R.N. Ravi and the government in the state of Tamil Nadu, and how they were at loggerheads after the governor decided to skip a few words from the speech in the assembly, in the Tamil Nadu assembly, and after which there was a controversial statement that was made by the DMK now suspended leader Shivaji Krishnamurthy in painting Mr. R.N. Ravi in a bad light. Even that has been raked up at the moment by the BJP after this arrest of one of its members, Jagdishan. My colleague Purnima is with us on the broadcast now. Purnima, why has this arrest been made?
Well, in fact, the DMK IT wing had filed a complaint against a BJP Kanchipuram district worker for making derogatory remarks about Chief Minister M.K. Stalin and his family. And therefore, a complaint was filed by the DMK. And following the complaint by the DMK, action has been taken where the BJP member has been arrested in Kanchipuram district. And he's been also, an FIR was initially registered against him and he's arrested. The BJP is now saying that they have filed 3 complaints, including the one against former DMK orator who used expletives against the governor. And BJP says that despite filing complaints, no action has been taken against the DMK workers. However, action has been taken against BJP. So questioning how there has been no action against DMK but against the BJP. That's the question that's raised by the state BJP at this point in time, as no action and no FIRs have been registered against the DMK netas who made derogatory remarks about governor.
And any response by the DMK on these accusations that have been made by the BJP, Purnima?
Well, so far, no response from the DMK. The DMK maintains that it's up to the police to register FIRs, and that has nothing to do with the DMK, and it's only a political mileage that the BJP is trying to make by saying that there has been a delay by the police department, but it's up to the police to investigate the case and take action, and that the DMK is not responsible for the delay in action against their leaders.
And Purnima, you're saying essentially that this arrest was made of Jagdishan, who's a BJP member, only after a complaint was registered against him at the Kanchipuram police station. Is that right?
Absolutely. The DMK advocate wing had filed a complaint with the police, following which the BJP worker Jagdishan was arrested in Kanchipuram district.
Okay.
So the BJP says that they have time and again filed complaints against DMK leaders for making derogatory remarks about the governor. Why has no action been taken with regards to their complaints? That's the question raised by the state BJP.
Thanks, Purnima, for all the information that you're joining us with. Taking this across to Mr. Narayan Tirupati of the BJP, who's now joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Tirupati, an arrest of one of your party workers, Mr. Jagdishan. How do you respond?
See, I don't justify a person because he belongs to my party. What he has spoken is definitely condemnable. It is wrong. But the government and the chief minister has got more responsibility than others. While the DMK leaders or speakers, they speak very filthy and bad about our prime minister, home minister, governor and other BJP leaders in the same way. Like, Shivaji Krishnamurthy and Sayyidai Sadiq, who spoke ill about Kushbu and other women leaders in BJP, and Mr. R.S. Bharati, the organizing secretary. We have filed several complaints, but no action so far.
All right.
And that is not right. That is what we are condemning.
All right. Mr. Tirupati, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd leave it at that. My colleague Poonam is joining you now with The Nation at 5.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. This is Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. And the story we're tracking at this hour comes from Australia, where there have been 3 attacks in just 10 days on 3 temples across the country. What's fueling this kind of hate, and is Khalistani propaganda back on agenda? Take a look. A third temple has been vandalized in Australia, allegedly by Khalistani supporters. It was vandalized with anti-Hindu pro-Khalistan graffiti. The ISKCON temple, which is also known as the Hare Krishna temple, is a well-known center of the Bhakti Yoga movement in Melbourne, specifically located in Albert Park. Remember, this follows 2 other instances of vandalism that have been reported in just the last 10 days. On the 12th of January, the Swami temple was vandalized in Melbourne. Anti-India and anti-Hindu graffiti was sprayed on the walls. Then, 4 days later, on the 16th of January, the historic Sri Shiva Vishnu temple was to desecrate religious temples in this particular way. But in terms of action, there is very little coming in, which is why many are asking if this kind of condemnation is just mere lip service coming in from the Australian side. Now, let me put this in perspective for you. There are three separate instances that came to the fore from Australia. The first one took place on the 12th of January, where the Bap Swaminarayan Mandir was attacked. This happened in Mill Park. 4 days later, on the 16th of January, the Sri Shiva Vishnu temple was vandalized. Then, on the 23rd of January, an ISKCON temple was vandalized in Albert Park. So, there are three different instances coming to the fore, similar graffiti, similar messaging that is now coming to the fore in all three instances. And in terms of action in all those three instances, there has been really none. No arrests made so far, not even identification of who exactly is behind this vandalism, this kind of hate messaging that is being seen across Melbourne, which is home to several Indians that are residing there for decades together. So what is fueling this kind of hate? Let me open that up to Dr. Amit Sarwal, who is the co-founder and editor of Australia Today. Mahadevan Shankar, national convener of the Defence and Security Industry Group in Australia, also joins us on this broadcast. But let me get started with Dr. Sarwal. And unfortunately, Dr. Sarwal, we've seen such instances happening at a quick pace in Australia, in Melbourne specifically, which is home to a vast Indian community. Why have we not seen any action? No arrests, even in the two cases that have been that came to the fore last week.
I think one of the key questions that the Australian authorities are grappling with is this hate crime because this is within the South Asian community, particularly the Indian community, or is it just your everyday instance of graffiti on the walls of Melbourne? View so far, and also if you look, my area of research has been South Asian diaspora in Australia, and I've looked at the history of South Asian diaspora, particularly Indian students, Indian communities, various communities, Hindu, Sikh, Muslims. This is just in the last couple of years that I've been seeing that a very silent, slow-paced grooming of young people is taking place, and these people are young and they're recent graduates, and they have joined as advisors, as poets, maybe journalists, and so they have been groomed by this Khalistani ideology, and therefore you do not even see anything written about this in mainstream Australian media. It's very slow, and I think other people can attest to it, that the silence from authorities and mainstream public is very concerning. Particularly, I think they do not have any knowledge of what Khalistan stands for.
Absolutely. And Mahadevan Shankar, I'd like to get you in on that. On the silence that we've seen from the Australian government, should they have at least come out, someone, if not the Prime Minister himself, but someone from the government would come out and build some kind of confidence or lift the morale of the community there? Because this is not a small community that we're talking of.
Yeah, thanks, Poonam. I think Amit pretty much summarized it, what the community believes over there. From my own experience, last year there was incidents where the Sikh community was having a gathering in New South Wales. There were Sikh origin troops in their uniform attending that event, and unfortunately photographs were shared and spread around to try and suggest and indicate that the Australian Defence Force is also in some way or the other supporting such incidents, which later was pretty vehemently rejected by the Australian Defence Force. The authorities came down heavily. Just regarding today's third incident, I have flagged it with a few sources, high-level sources at DFAC, and I've been reliably told that the Victorian Police Force is working behind the scenes actively to find the culprits. But like you rightly said, there has to be a political voice that comes right from the top, whether it comes from Canberra, whether it comes from the Victorian government. We got 750,000 Indian origin people out here, and people cannot live in fear, whether it's Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs. My Sikh
Agarwal, but is pre that we are seeing, because we know there is a Khalistani referendum that is going to take place in Australia end of this month, 29th of January, if I'm not mistaken. Are we going to see more and more such instances? And if that is the case, then shouldn't the agencies, the enforcement agencies, be more wary of such acts?
Now, one of the key things that we have seen that this referendum is pretty much illegal in Australia because Sikhs for Justice is not a registered body. And, only registered bodies can actually carry out such referendums. So and the lawyers can attest to it as well, but one of the things you will see is that infatuation with the idea, the pseudo idea of Khalistan is resulting in desperation, because at this stage, what we know is that within the Sikh community, people are afraid. They do not want to support Khalistan, but they don't want to come out in open and oppose this ideology as well, because these are desperate people, and people from within the Sikh and Punjabi Hindu community have already seen it in Canada. What these people can actually do. They resort to all kinds of mental and physical violence. They also resort to boycotting businesses. So one of the key things right now is that Khalistani supporters are desperate to get attention, and these acts that you see in the three temples from January 12 to January 23, and maybe more, they're just trying to get attention. They're basically what I call is they're trying to get street credit, the street credibility that we are here. Most of these people have come from USA and Canada to conduct the referendum, and they're trying to show the new recruits how things are done when you're fighting for Khalistani ideology. So that it's just plain street cred. They're trying to bring street cred. They're trying to show, but this is, infatuation often leads to desperation, and desperation leads to violent acts. That's what's happened in Canada, and we saw
and we've seen that happen in the UK as well.
Ideology was behind bombing of the plane. We do not want in the peaceful Australian community, multicultural community, and a multi-faith community any desperate acts of violence.
Geopolitical issues that are happening. Australia-India defense collaboration is very critical. It's very important. The Australian government takes it very seriously. In the past 12 months, all the three service chiefs of Australian Defence Forces and their Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the Defence Minister, has visited India. The Indian Defence Minister is visiting Australia pretty soon. The External Affairs Minister will be coming, and PM Modi will be coming. So it's very important the Australian authorities nip it in the bud now and not let it build up towards May. Otherwise, it's going to be a significant impact on the bilateral relations. We have achieved a lot. The free trade agreement is moving in the right direction. And I don't think the government out here in Australia should let this move any further.
Absolutely. And at the very least, it leaves the Australian government there completely red-faced, if nothing else, while they have those bilateral meetings. If instances like this come to the fore, I request you gentlemen to stay on with me. My colleague Abhishek also joining us on this broadcast. And Abhishek, we know that the High Commissioner here in India had raised the issue. He had said that we condemn any such acts. This is not free speech and this is not going to be acceptable. But in terms of action, we've seen very little. Has the MEA asked the Australian counterparts to expedite any sort of action? What has been the reaction so far?
So, Griha, we know that last week during its official weekly presser, MEA spokesperson Arinder Bagchi has said that they have raised this issue both at Canberra and Delhi. Last week, we had seen comments from Barry O'Farrell, Australian High Commissioner in Delhi, who has said that hate crimes and violence cannot be part of freedom of speech. But now what is the latest on this is Australian High Commission has reacted to the latest incidents of vandalism on Hindu temples in Australia. He has said that I'm gravely concerned by the mindless vandalism of Hindu temples in Victoria. Australia does not tolerate hate speech or violence, and Australian authorities are investigating the matter. And he has also said that Australia values diversity and inclusion, respects the right of individuals to engage in peaceful protest, and support the non-violent expression of views. So this is while Australian government has time and again in the past, they have reacted in the same manner, but always they have reacted with this caveat where they have always said that they respect the freedom of expression and protest, a peaceful protest. But having said that, Does it look like that these vandalism that is happening on Indian temples are in any way or any manner peaceful protest? They are defacing temples. They are portraying anti-India slogans on these temples. They're hurting the sentiments of religious community or minority communities in Australia. But still, we are not seeing a very action-oriented approach from the local authorities, despite the fact that Indian government and Indian local missions, they have raised the issue with local police authorities, but there has not been any single arrest in the last 3 cases. And if it continues to be like that, like one can only assume that the emboldened spirit of these mindless, violent extremist groups will continue to do such acts of violence in future also.
And which is why the authorities there need to act in time to ensure that there is no repeat of such instances. Abhishek, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. That's the latest statement that's come to the fore from the High Commissioner of Australia here in India. But what exactly has been the reaction in Australia? Unfortunately, not much. And Dr. Sarwal, you would have spoken to, or your colleagues at Australia Today would have spoken to the people on ground there, the community, the management of all of these temples. What really is the sense there? Have the authorities reached out to them, at least on a personal level, perhaps, tried to mitigate the issue or build some sort of confidence? At least has that happened?
Not at this stage. You'll be surprised to know that the Premier of Victoria is on leave, and so is the Multicultural Minister. So to answer you first, we reached out to ISKCON Temple. We had a live from there, and one of the priests, Arjun, told the Australia Today that the community obviously is pretty scared because this has been happening. And, if the police had been active and they had stopped, or they've got some culprits in the first case, the other 2 incidents wouldn't have taken place. But as you can see in your video as well, they have installed a new CCTV on top, just below the ISKCON. Authorities, especially the police, move slow. I think the incident took place somewhere, before 5 a.m. We had a chat with Arjun, the priest at ISKCON, around 3 p.m. And till then, he said that none of the police officers had actually come to the premises of ISKCON Temple to take the footage. It was only the footage that ISKCON Temple has provided, along with their. So the police is moving slow. They are asking locals to provide any CCTV dash cam footage that they have got of suspicious activities around the temple, any of the temples. So they are moving. Maybe they are doing their work. Unlike India, they don't make a show of it, but they are doing. But what is surprising, particularly the people we have talked, is that the Premier didn't say anything. He's on leave. The Multicultural Minister didn't say anything. And what we got from the acting Premier of Victoria, Jacinta Allen, is a template kind of statement. And she says, I quote, "All Victorians deserve to practice their faith free from racism, education, anyone."
Sure, and that's really what the response of the High Commissioner here in India also seems like. Like you said, perhaps a templated response that they feel like they should respond with in such situations. But really, what does it lead to? Is it just mere lip service, and is that all it is what many are wondering, Mahadev and Shankar. And it's not just about the community there. It's also about people here. Now, a few years ago, perhaps a decade or so ago, I remember there were instances where there were these racist attacks on Indians, especially Indian students. That went on for a little while as well. Whether there was action taken or not, or it was just within the course of time that it ended, is that the kind of approach that Australian authorities seem to be having now? That yes, we are seeing these attacks, but in the course of time, they eventually will go away.
As a terrorist, how did he get entry into Australia, even if he's an American citizen? If he came into Australia, why was he not arrested? What are the deportation procedures? What's the extradition treaty in place? All these larger issues need to be coming to the fore now. And maybe both the high commissions need to sit together and work on this, because you cannot have a Quad summit with the leaders meeting up. You are expressing the key words that Australian High Commissioner Barry, who's a very big friend of India, he keeps talking about dosti, defense, democracy, and diaspora. So that needs to be translated into action also at some point in time. You cannot have dosti where you have a proscribed terrorist entering Australia and then exiting the place, also creating a ruckus in the society by threatening. I mean, look at your videos out there. It's talking about Hindustan Murdabad. There was something about Target Modi. Now, Prime Minister Modi is not an average politician that for his resignation. Now, I'm just taking a bipartisan approach. If the Jewish community feels so hurt and their issues are being addressed at the national level, why can't the Hindu community also? I mean, we have also been a victim of a Holocaust. I don't want to go down the Bengal famine route, but the Khalistan genocide that has happened out there in Punjab, we have lived through it and we don't want it happening again. We don't want the terrorists coming into Australia, whether they are of American passport or whatever passport. If the Indian government has proscribed them as terrorists, catch them, deport them, send them to India, let them face the full force of the justice there.
Absolutely. We've seen the talk, we've seen the condemnation. Now we'd like to see action and for the government and authorities there to actually walk that talk. And we leave it at that. Dr. Sarwal and Mahadevan Shankar, thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 18 with your perspective. We are shifting focus now to controversy over Ramcharitmanas and Hindu gods that has taken a new turn. After the RJD, now Samajwadi Party leader Swami Prasad Maurya has sparked a big controversy by demanding a ban on Ramcharitmanas, claiming there is another controversy that is brewing over Ramayana, and that is by author K.S. Bhagwan, who claimed that Valmiki Ramayana states that Lord Ram used to drink wine with Sita every afternoon. That has now irked Hindu outfits who have registered a complaint in Maurya district in Karnataka over K.S. Bhagwan's indecent remarks. Listen in to the comments that came to the fore from these two and the political fireworks that followed.
स्वामी जी, आखिर इतना गुस्सा क्यों है आपको गोस्वामी तुलसीदास द्वारा रचित रामायण को लेकर?
तुलसीदास की चौपाई में यदि कुछ अंश इस तरह से आए हैं तो स्वाभाविक रूप से वो आपत्तिजनक हैं। जाति सूचक शब्दों का प्रयोग करते हुए अधम जात का प्रमाण पत्र दे रहे हैं। तुलसी बाबा को किसने अधिकार दिया? क्या जिन जातियों का इन्होंने जिक्र किया, तेली, कुमार, सुपच, किरात, कोल, कलवार, क्या हिंदू नहीं है क्या? अब इतना ये मूर्ख समझते हैं कि जिसमें तुलसी बाबा रामायण लिखे हैं उस समय इनके धर्म के ठेकेदार नारी शूद्रो न धीयताम, स्त्री और शूद्र को पढ़ने लिखने का अधिकार ही नहीं है। स्त्रियों को पढ़ने लिखने का अधिकार अंग्रेजी हुकूमत में मिला, शूद्रों को पढ़ने लिखने का अधिकार अंग्रेजी हुकूमत में मिला, तो तुलसी बाबा उस समय कैसे शिक्षा देने की बात कर गए?
सीते जोते शीतमादाय बाहुभ्याम मधुमैरेयकम, ಸೀತೆಯನ್ನು ಸೇರಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಸೀತೆಗೂ ಮಧುಮೈರೇಯಕೆಂಬ ಹೆಂಡವನ್ನ ಕುಡಿಸಿ ಶಚಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂದ್ರನ ತನ್ನ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಶಚಿ ದೇವಿಗೆ ಕುಡಿಸಿದ್ದಾಗೆ ಇವನು ಕುಡಿತಿದ್ದ ಅಂತ ದಾಖಲೆ ಇದೆ. ನನ್ನ ಮಾತುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಹೌದು, ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ವಾಲ್ಮೀಕಿ ರಾಮಾಯಣದಲ್ಲಿ।
रामचरितमानस की एक एक चौपाई 500 वर्षों के बाद भी सार्थक है और आज भी समाज के हर वर्ग, हर व्यक्ति आज भी तुलसीदास जी की चौपाई को आज महसूस करता है कि आज हमारे बीच में कहीं ना कहीं ये सब घटनाएं घटित हो रही हैं। तो वो स्वामी प्रसाद मौर्य जी ने जो बयान दिया है वो डिप्रेशन में दिया है, क्योंकि वो राजनीति में जो जब से वो चुनाव हारे हैं वो जनता ने उनको नकारा है, तब से वो बहुत ही जो है दुखी है और अपने को चर्चा में लाने के लिए उन्होंने इस तरह का बयान दिया।
कहा जाए उस व्यक्ति एक लतखोर है और वह उसको ये पता नहीं है कि रामायण है वो हमारे भगवान राम का चरित्र उसमें है, और उस चरित्र को जानने के लिए जिस आदर्श के पुरुष भगवान राम हैं, जिन्होंने आदर्श स्थापित किया, रामो द्वै ना विभाजते, राम कभी झूठ नहीं बोलते, ऐसे राम का रामो विग्रहवान धर्म, ऐसे राम की कोई होगा उसको पैसे नहीं प्रकार से उसकी वह पूजनीय है। ऐसा व्यक्ति जो रामायण को प्रतिबंधित कर रहा है, हम कहेंगे अखिलेश जी से कि आप अपने पार्टी को निकालो।
फिर से एक बार प्रभु श्री रामचंद्र जी का घोर अपमान किया है, इसका तीव्र निषेध करते हैं। फिर से उन्होंने अक्षम्य अपराध किया है, इसके माध्यम से करोड़ों हिंदुओं का, राम भक्तों का उन्होंने अपमान किया है। आज प्रभु श्री रामचंद्र जी के बारे में गलत बातें बताना, उनका अपमान करना एक बड़ा षड्यंत्र चल रहा है। इसलिए हम राज्य सरकार से आग्रह करते हैं कि तुरंत उनको अरेस्ट करना चाहिए।
भगवान राम के बारे में अनर्गल टिप्पणी कर रहे हैं और भगवान राम का जो चरित्र लिखा वाल्मीकि जी या तुलसीदास जी ने रामचरितमानस में कहीं भी ऐसा वर्णन नहीं आता कि इन्होंने शराब पी है या माता जानकी के साथ बैठकर उन्होंने किसी प्रकार का कोई नशा किया है। ये केवल कम्युनिस्ट विचारधारा के लेखक हैं और इनका उद्देश्य है केवल ऐसे जो जिनको पूजा जाता है देवी देवताओं उनके
टॉप ऑफिशियल से बात हुई, ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड उन्होंने कहा कि ऐसा लग रहा है कि आईडी ब्लास्ट है, स्टिकी ब्लास्ट का यूज़ किया गया है। और ये मैं बता दूं, ये एक बड़ी चुनौती यहाँ पे उभर के सामने आई। स्टिकी ब्लास्ट आपको पता है उधमपुर में भी इसको यूज़ किया गया था, इसी तरह से ब्लास्ट किए गए थे, हालांकि वहाँ कोई इंजरी नहीं हुई थी। लेकिन अगर यहाँ की बात करें तो 6 लोग अभी तक इंजर्ड हो गए हैं। एक ब्लास्ट 11:05 को हुआ, उसके बाद 11:20 को दूसरा 11:25 को दूसरा ब्लास्ट हुआ। तो कुछ टाइम के बाद 2 ब्लास्ट बैक टू बैक हुए हैं।
The wrestlers have called off their protest after a breakthrough was achieved during the second round of talks with Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur. The minister said that the WFI chief Brij Bhushan will step aside until an inquiry is completed against him. He also added that a 4-member committee will be formed which will investigate the allegations leveled by the wrestlers.
ओवरसाइट कमेटी का गठन किया जाएगा। अगले 4 हफ्तों के अंदर अपनी जांच को पूरा करेंगे और जो निर्णय बाकी करने की आवश्यकता होगी वो भी करने का काम करेंगे। जब तक ये जांच पूरी नहीं हो जाती और तब तक भारतीय कुश्ती संघ के अध्यक्ष श्री ब्रिज भूषण जी वो अपने आप को स्टेप असाइड करेंगे, दैनिक कार्यकलाप से अलग रखेंगे।
Meanwhile, the protesting wrestlers have claimed that the government has assured them of action and they trust the government. While calling off the protest, wrestler Bajrang Punia said that they never wanted to take the protest route in the first place, but they were pushed to the limit.
हमने पूरा विश्वास है कि इसमें निष्पक्ष जांच होगी और जो खिलाड़ियों की सुरक्षा की है, चाहे क्योंकि हमें सरकार ने आश्वासन दिया कि आपके साथ न्याय होगा।
BJP President JP Nadda addressed a public rally in poll-bound Karnataka today. He hit out at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi over the Bharat Jodo Yatra. Nadda said that when the Prime Minister visited Karnataka, he encouraged and showcased the state's culture, while Rahul Gandhi is walking with those who contributed in dividing India.
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जब कर्नाटक में आते हैं तो कर्नाटक में वो कर्नाटक की परंपराओं की हमेशा याद करके कर्नाटक के गौरव की बात करते हैं। ये हमारे प्रधानमंत्री करते हैं। लेकिन दूसरी तरफ राहुल गांधी भारत जोड़ो यात्रा में उन लोगों को लेके चलते हैं, आपके कर्नाटक में भी आए थे, जिन लोगों ने भारत को तोड़ने में अपना योगदान किया है, वही राहुल गांधी के दाएं बाएं दिखते हैं।
More than 300 eminent citizens have penned a strongly worded letter against the BBC documentary on the 2002 Gujarat riots. Several retired judges, armed forces veterans, former diplomats are all part of the signatories to this letter. They have called this documentary as delusional and lopsided reporting.
The BBC has a troubled record in dealing with India because it appears to have a colonial mindset with regard to India. And from time to time this surfaces, and this particular documentary of 2 parts was a visible example of the fact that although it's a public broadcasting service, it does these programs which are highly discriminatory, interference in our internal affairs, and which are funded by private partners, not the British government.
They're trying to talk about Prime Minister Modi in a negative context, linking it to the incidents that took place in Gujarat in 2002. But there is no factual reporting in the BBC documentary at all. They keep talking about allegedly this and reportedly that. And above all, they have ignored completely the decisions of the Indian judiciary. BBC has completely destroyed its credibility by bringing about such a documentary.
Meanwhile, the centre has ordered YouTube to block some of the videos of the BBC documentary on the Gujarat 2002 riots. Twitter was also asked to take down about 50-odd tweets which contain the YouTube links to the documentary. Sources say that both YouTube and Twitter have complied with the order from the government. After Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, the Congress party has released the logo of Haath Se Haath Jodo Abhiyan and a chart sheet against the Modi government's failures. The Congress's Haath Se Haath Jodo Abhiyan is a house-to-house campaign which will begin from the 26th of January, Republic Day.
Haath Se Haath Jodo Abhiyan is basically a house-to-house campaign. With this Rahul Gandhi's message of Bharat Jodo Yatra and the charge sheet against the Modi government, and adding to that, in respective state unit, they will make a one-sheet pamphlet against the respective state government wherever it is necessary.
A G20 walkathon was organized in Varanasi in collaboration with the district administration as well as the municipal corporation there. The walkathon was organized to spread awareness regarding the G20 meeting, which is coming up in September. It was kicked off by Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has revealed that the centre has sent a proposal to UNESCO nominating Charaidio Maidam as a World Heritage Site. During a press conference in Janta Bhavan in Tizpur, Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma also said that the historic tourist destination was chosen out of 52 sites. Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Sukhvinder Singh Sukhu has said that the state intends to become India's first green energy state by 2025. Sukhu, who held a meeting with the state's energy department, added that the state would harness hydrogen and solar energy and switch to green products. The government will also install 500 megawatts of solar projects by
Welcome back. Let's now get you some breaking news from our neighborhood, and this comes from Pakistan, which seems to be in the dark as far as its power outage is concerned, and troubles are only mounting for the Pakistani government. It is soon going to present a mini budget to address concerns of the International Monetary Fund, who will not release the bailout package for Pakistan if necessary reforms in the economy are not implemented. So the conditions are set. The deadline is set as well by the IMF for a bailout. Sources are now telling us that IMF's recommendations are expected to stoke up inflation. Reports suggest that there could be a 30% hike in electricity prices, 60 to 70% hike in gas prices, and hike on interest rates as well in Pakistan. Remember, this morning we had seen major cities in Pakistan that had plunged into darkness. The economy is in doldrums. And now, even for the IMF to bail them out, there are certain preconditions that have been set. Abhishek Jha, my colleague, now joins us for more on this. Abhishek, it's one crisis after another for Shahbaz Sharif and for Pakistan.
And absolutely, it looks like Shahbaz Sharif is dealing both at international front and political front in domestic level as well. Recently, Pakistan has arranged a conference sort of thing in Geneva to have as much of financial assistance from various countries in the wake of ravaging flood that has happened in Pakistan. But most likely, what they could get was 8 billion approximately pledges. These are still pledges, so these are not the money that Pakistan has actually got, and these pledges are supposed to come in Pakistan for a longer period of 3 to 5 years. So the crisis of Pakistan, of economic crisis, that is sorted out with the latest convention that Pakistan tried to arrange. Pakistan is also from Saudi and UAE to have its balance of payment crisis maintained, because Pakistan's foreign exchange reserve has depleted to a level where it can only suffice for few weeks of international import. Remember, Pakistan, for most of its essential commodities and fuel, depends on international imports. In fact, most of its energy demand is generated through fossil fuels. We have seen today how this whole outages in Pakistan has created a concern whether this was because of some fuel crisis or whether it was because of some technical error that the energy minister in Pakistan is claiming. But overall, the situation in economic situation in Pakistan remains grim, and the latest mini budget that Pakistan government is trying to present would only be in a direction to assure its lenders or its creditors that the economy is on the track, or what are the ways that Shahbaz Sharif is trying to find out to bring Pakistan away from the crisis of economy.
Right, Abhishek, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Security analyst Pathikrit Payne also joining us on this broadcast to put this in more perspective for us. And Pathikrit, like Abhishek was also pointing out, it's one crisis after another. And it's not just instability as far as economy is concerned.
A viable economy per se. They have never put effort to create viable institutions in place. The grid doesn't fail like that. The grid failure itself only happens when you have systemic neglect of the grid for a long period of time, even though it's a reality that the transmission lines or power outages or collapse have been a norm than an exception in Pakistan. But what Abhishek also mentioned rightly, that there's a question mark as to whether it is by design or default. Because there is a strong possibility they have deliberately done it to save some money. The annual amount of oil import they do primarily for generation of power in Pakistan is $3 billion. They simply don't have money right now. Secondly, it's only a few days back, the government of Pakistan asked the shopping malls to shut down by 8:30 p.m. to conserve energy. I don't know which rational government would ask commercial retail spaces to close up by 8:30 at evening, especially at a time when actually this business starts picking up. And yes, so far as concerned, has been politically. That is the way their so-called pseudo-democracy has worked with the deep state of Pakistan, always been in control. And the reality is that there is no government of Pakistan which has finished its 5-year term. So political instability per se is not an issue. The elites of Pakistan, the feudal landlords, whether it is the Sharifs or the Zardaris or the Bhuttos or even including Imran Khan, they have always had a nice time. Even if the price of wheat goes up to 10,000 rupees a kg, they don't mind. Reality is that the rest of the Pakistan has been indoctrinated, radicalized to the hilt. They have suffered while the elite have made money by begging all the time, whether it is for flood or anything else. Pakistan is imploding in multiple fronts. The failure in the power sector is just of it's so if they want to be suicidal, then who can save them? I don't think World Bank can, because World Bank will ask them to rationalize tariff. Today, Pakistan has a major, supply side constraints. So if raising a price can only make things better if you have larger supply chain. That is not there. So invariably, higher prices would create more chaos. The chaos is going on in a cycle, in a loop, and it's going to go on like that unless the idea of Pakistan, if at all something was ever there, will completely collapse altogether. The signs, as you see, Poonam, right now, are palpable of what happens if the priority of any country is not development but something else.
Absolutely, and we've had the Pakistani Prime Minister just in the recent past come out and say that we need to talk Kashmir and we need to get the Indian government on the talking table. Then we had another provocation coming in from Kashmir yesterday, where they wanted school children to observe Kashmir Day there. So all they want to do is try and divert attention from the problems that persist in that country. But what good does that do? Because all you're trying to do is try and shift the narrative, but the world is looking through that.
Well, I don't know whether the world is looking through that, because, specifically the Western countries and the Middle East have always, kept Pakistan in good humor because of its geostrategic location. But Pakistan have played this game for the last 50 years almost. They have radicalized their youth. Their education system consists of so many, obnoxious things that they write against, Indians, Hindus, other minorities. And that is how they have fed them with that hatred. So they can't give up today, because if they give it up, then suddenly the same Pakistanis will ask for better amenities, which the government of Pakistan and the elite doesn't want to give to the rest of the 85 to 90%. And at the same time, they have created a huge infrastructure of terror organizations, and they have kept in good humor by playing the Kashmir card. Today, if Shahbaz Sharif suddenly talks about peace and do away with the Kashmir card, even though he knows that nobody cares two hoots what he says about Kashmir, but he would still continue to speak about it, because if it doesn't, then tomorrow all this Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed will become Frankenstein, as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan has become. So he keeps on playing this card, and that is exactly what Pakistan has done. That's why I reiterate, that if a country is suicidal in its objective, then nobody can stop them from going to down the bottomless pit. Even World Bank cannot. And that is the reality. The deep state of Pakistan makes money. The political elite makes money. The rest of the people don't. Today the remittance in Pakistan have stopped coming from the formal route of banks, because they know that the money will not be given to their family members. All is coming to the Hawala routes only, because the faith that they have in financial institutions of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan has absolutely gone away. As it is, whether you talk about Tehreek-e-Taliban and the regions of Balochistan and Waziristan or Swat Valley, they have declared an independent government of their own, which has nothing to do with government of Pakistan as per them. So it is a game that is going on. I think we should simply watch the game that is happening. And it's a lesson for every country in the world. What happens if your objective is not development of your own country, but your objective is to destroy others.
Absolutely. And Pakistan, of course, not mending its ways, not learning lessons from its past mistakes, and is now suffering at the end of that. For the moment, Pratikrit, thank you so much for joining us here and putting that in perspective. For now, we're shifting focus to the other big controversy that is brewing here in India over the documentary by BBC on Prime Minister Modi.
मोदी के बारे में गलत दिखाए तो बैन, इंडिया में बैन.
It is a colonizer's gaze on India, which has forgotten its checkered past. They of all people should not be preaching to us about rule of law and human rights.
After centre blocked the airing of the BBC documentary which questioned Prime Minister Modi's leadership during the 2002 Gujarat riots, All India Bar Association has now written to Union Home Minister Amit Shah requesting a 360-degree probe into the documentary. In a letter that was written to the Home Minister, 4 major points were listed. Bar Association pointed out that the association considered the timing of the documentary and its contents as dangerous. Meanwhile, politics continues. Opposition leaders have ripped into the centre over the removal of this controversial series from both Twitter and YouTube. They tagged it censorship. Some even tweeted out alternative links where the first of the 2-part series can be watched. AIMIM Chief and Member of Parliament Assaduddin Owaisi added his own twist. He dared the central government to block the movie on Godse as well, in the same way they say that the BBC documentary was blocked. Now, this comes even as the centre has gone on record to say that this is nothing but colonial hangover and colonial intoxication of the opposition, and it was the highest court of this country that in fact has exonerated Prime Minister Modi for any role in the Gujarat riots.
मोदी के बारे में गलत दिखाए तो बैन, इंडिया में बैन और गांधी को मारने वाला जो गांधी को गोली मारा उस पे कोई बैन नहीं। क्यों भाई गोडसे आपका क्या लगता है? गोडसे पर जो पिक्चर बन रही है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया क्लियर कट लेकर पूछना चाह रहे हैं बीजेपी से।
ब्लॉक इन इंडिया स्कीम से फायदा नहीं होगा मोदी जी। ये ब्लॉक करके आपने स्वीकार कर लिया कि जो उसमें दिखाया जा रहा है और बोला जा रहा है वो सत्य है। अगर आप में सत्यता थी, अगर आपको लोकतंत्र में भरोसा था, अगर आपको संविधान में भरोसा था तो सत्य प्रस्तुत करते ना। सत्य प्रस्तुत करने से डर गए क्योंकि उन्होंने आपको आईना दिखा दिया। मैं पुनः उनको याद दिलाऊंगा, भारत के प्रधानमंत्री जी को, कि आपके लिए जो वाजपेयी जी ने बोला था, राजधर्म निभाओ, राजधर्म, सच से डरो मत।
In the last several years, the opposition and Congress in particular have tried to politicize the unfortunate Gujarat riots. But Prime Minister Modi stands vindicated in the Supreme Court and in the court of the people. Why should it matter what an external agency has to say about an issue which has been settled in the highest court of the land and is abundantly supported by the will of the people? It is a colonizer's gaze on India which has forgotten its checkered past. They of all people should not be preaching to us about rule of law and human rights.
Now, Pallavi, the political fireworks continues to brew between the centre and the opposition leaders. Some even went out to tweet alternative links where this documentary could be watched. Now, we do know that the centre has ensured that this documentary is not aired on Twitter or on social media. But what about these alternative links that are being shared? Are those being shut down as well?
So there is close monitoring of the entire situation by the INP ministry and the IT as well as the Home Ministry. That's what we are being told. And anyone who is going to misuse the entire procedure, who's going to try and push for this narrative or even ensure that this documentary is watched through other platforms, some action possibly could be taken against them. In fact, what we are already being told is that government is in touch with many of the social media platforms and already has sent out a message to them that please do not encourage and do not hesitate in taking action, which means blocking their accounts in case anyone is seen as pushing forward the BBC documentary.
Right, Pallavi, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that political face-off. Moving on now to another controversy that has been triggered by Congress's General Secretary Digvijay Singh, who lashed out at the centre today during the Bharat Jodo Yatra in Jammu and Kashmir, asking for proof on surgical strikes that so many people had been killed was the claim. He says that the government said that many people were claimed and it was a successful strike against Pakistan, but where is the proof? The BJP has now hit back, claiming that this is not the first time Digvijay Singh or anyone from the Congress has come out and made a statement like this that casts aspersions on India's forces.
सीआरपीएफ के लोगों ने, डायरेक्टर ने मांग की थी कि सेंसिटिव जोन है इन सीआरपीएफ के जवानों को हवाई जहाज से श्रीनगर से दिल्ली भेजा जाए, लेकिन मोदी जी ने मना कर दिया। क्यों मना कर दिया? आज तक उस घटना की जानकारी न संसद में उन्होंने पेश की, न जनता के सामने रखी। सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक की बात करते हैं कि हमने इतने लोग मार गिराए, लेकिन प्रमाण कुछ नहीं।
आज तक ये जवाब नहीं दे पाई है कि देवेंद्र सिंह डिप्टी एसपी, जो कि आतंकवादियों से पकड़ा गया, वो आज कहां है? उसको क्यों छोड़ दिया गया? राष्ट्रद्रोह का प्रकरण उस पर क्यों नहीं बना? इसी के साथ साथ हम तो पूछना चाहते हैं प्रधानमंत्री जी से, उनके और पाकिस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री जी की क्या संबंध है, कैसे संबंध है? एक दूसरे की प्रशंसा हो रही है। आखिर इन सब बातों का जवाब तो उन्हें देना चाहिए।
भारी मन से यह कहना पड़ रहा है कि कांग्रेस पार्टी का चरित्र भारत जोड़ो यात्रा तो नाम की है, भारत को तोड़ने का कार्य स्वयं राहुल गांधी और तमाम कांग्रेस के नेता उनके इशारे पर कर रहे हैं। सुर्खियों में बने रहने के लिए गैर जिम्मेदाराना बयान देना, यह कांग्रेस पार्टी का चरित्र है। लेकिन आप भारतीय सेना के खिलाफ बोलेंगे,
पर उनका फैलाया, फिर सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक और बालाकोट एयर स्ट्राइक पर फैलाया, और अब दिग्विजय सिंह कांग्रेस के वरिष्ठ नेता पुलवामा का दोष भारत पर डालते। ये पहली बार ऐसा नहीं किया जा रहा। इससे पहले भी अधीर रंजन चौधरी, रणदीप सुरजेवाला ने पुलवामा का दोष पाकिस्तान से हटाकर भारत पर डालने का कुत्सित प्रयास किया था। भारत को ही दोषी साबित करने की कोशिश की गई थी। सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक का भी प्रूफ मानते हैं दिग्विजय सिंह, कहते हैं कोई प्रूफ ही नहीं है। ये वही पार्टी है जिसने बालाकोट एयर स्ट्राइक पर भी सवाल उठाया और कहा कि चील कौवे मरे थे। बार बार सेना के मनोबल पर चोट की जाती है, पिटाई हो गई सेना की, ये कहा जाता है। सेना के शौर्य पर सवाल उठाए जाते हैं। गलवान में, तवांग में, डोकलाम में सेना के ऊपर सवाल उठाए जाते हैं। पाकिस्तान के जो पूरे नैरेटिव है उसके साथ खड़े रहने का काम बार बार कांग्रेस पार्टी करती है।
Which will be held from 30th of January to the 11th of February. Preparations are on in full swing and in the final stages in Gwalior. The games are being organized in 8 cities across the state. More than 7,000 players will participate in 30 sports disciplines across the state. 9 people have been injured in twin blasts in the Narwal area of Jammu. The blasts were reported in yard number 7 of Transport Nagar in Narwal. It's known as the hub of trucks. Jammu and Kashmir police have detained 6 people who are being questioned regarding their involvement in the blast that happened this morning. Further search and probe is underway.
एडीजीपी जो मुकेश सिंह है उनसे बात की, उनको पूछा कि क्या ये आईडी ब्लास्ट है, किस तरह का ब्लास्ट है। उन्होंने कहा कि अभी इन्वेस्टिगेशन चल रही है, अभी इन्वेस्टिगेशन जब कंप्लीट हो गई उसी के बाद निकाला जाएगा। लेकिन ऐसा लग रहा है, जो मेरी एक टॉप ऑफिशियल से बात हुई ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड, उन्होंने कहा कि ऐसा लग रहा है कि आईडी ब्लास्ट है, स्टिकी ब्लास्ट का यूज़ किया गया है। और ये मैं बता दूं, ये एक बड़ी चुनौती यहाँ पे उभर के सामने आई। स्टिकी ब्लास्ट आपको पता है उधमपुर में भी इसको यूज़ किया गया था, इसी तरह से ब्लास्ट किए गए थे, हालांकि वहाँ कोई इंजरी नहीं हुई थी। लेकिन अगर यहाँ की बात करें तो 6 लोग अभी तक इंजर्ड हो गए हैं। एक ब्लास्ट 11:05 को हुआ, उसके बाद 11:20 को दूसरा 11:25 को दूसरा ब्लास्ट हुआ। तो कुछ टाइम के बाद 2 ब्लास्ट बैक टू बैक हुए हैं।
The wrestlers have called off their protest after a breakthrough was achieved during the second round of talks with Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur. The minister said that the WFI chief, Brij Bhushan, will step aside until an inquiry is completed against him. He also added that a 4-member committee will be formed which will investigate the allegations levelled by the wrestlers.
ओवरसाइट कमेटी का गठन किया जाएगा। अगले 4 हफ्तों के अंदर अपनी जांच को पूरा करेंगे और जो निर्णय
बाकी करने की आवश्यकता होगी वो भी करने का काम करेंगे। जब तक ये जांच पूरी नहीं हो जाती और तब तक भारतीय कुश्ती संघ के अध्यक्ष श्री ब्रिजभूषण जी वो अपने आप को स्टेप असाइड करेंगे, दैनिक कार्यकलाप से अलग रखेंगे।
Meanwhile, the protesting wrestlers have claimed that the government has assured them of action and they trust the government. While calling off the protest, wrestler Bajrang Punia said that they never wanted to take the protest route in the first place, but they were pushed to the limit.
हमने पूरा विश्वास है कि इसमें निष्पक्ष जांच होगी और जो खिलाड़ियों की सुरक्षा की बात है, चाहे वो किसी तरह की बात है कि वो मंत्री जी ने बोला कि वो हमारी जिम्मेवारी है। हमारा खेल काफ़ी ऊपर गया है, हम भी नहीं चाहते थे कि ये प्रोटेस्ट करें, पर हमारी भी मजबूरी थी कि भाई इतना पानी सर से ऊपर चला गया था कि हम अभी खिलाड़ी प्रोटेस्ट को बंद कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि हमें सरकार ने आश्वासन दिया कि आपके साथ न्याय होगा।
BJP President JP Nadda addressed a public rally in pole-bound Karnataka today. He hit out at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi over the Bharat Jodo Yatra. Nadda said that when the Prime Minister visited Karnataka, he encouraged and showcased the state's culture, while Rahul Gandhi is walking with those who contributed in dividing India.
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जब कर्नाटक में आते हैं तो कर्नाटक में वो कर्नाटक की परंपराओं की हमेशा याद करके कर्नाटक के लेकिन दूसरी तरफ राहुल गांधी भारत जोड़ो यात्रा में उन लोगों को लेके चलते हैं, आपके कर्नाटक में भी आए थे, जिन लोगों ने भारत को तोड़ने में अपना योगदान किया है, वही राहुल गांधी के दाएं बाएं दिखते हैं।
More than 300 eminent citizens have penned a strongly worded letter against the BBC documentary on the 2002 Gujarat riots. Several retired judges, armed forces veterans, former diplomats are all part of the signatories to this letter. They have called this documentary as delusional and lopsided reporting.
The BBC has a troubled record in dealing with India because it appears to have a colonial mindset with regard to India. And from time to time, this surfaces, and this particular documentary of 2 parts was a visible example of the fact that although it's a public broadcasting service, it does these programs which are highly discriminatory, interference in our internal affairs, and which are funded by private partners, not the British government.
They're trying to talk about Prime Minister Modi in a negative context, linking it to the incidents that took place in Gujarat in 2002. But there is no factual reporting in the BBC documentary at all. They keep talking about allegedly this and reportedly that. And above all, they have ignored completely the decisions of the Indian judiciary. BBC has completely destroyed its credibility by bringing about such a documentary.
Meanwhile, the centre has ordered YouTube to block some of the videos of the BBC documentary on the Gujarat 2002 riots. Twitter was also asked to take down about 50-odd tweets which contain the YouTube links to the documentary. Sources say that both YouTube and Twitter have complied with the order from the government. After Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, the Congress party has released the logo of Haath Se Haath Jodo Abhiyan and a charge sheet against the Modi government's failures. The Congress's Haath Se Haath Jodo Abhiyan is a house-to-house campaign which will begin from the 26th of January, Republic Day.
Haath Se Haath Jodo Abhiyan is basically a house-to-house campaign. With this Rahul Gandhi's message of Bharat Jodo Yatra and the charge sheet against the Modi government, and adding to that, in respective state unit, they will make a one-sheet pamphlet against the respective state government wherever it is necessary.
A G20 walkathon was organized in Varanasi in collaboration with the district administration as well as the municipal corporation there. The walkathon was organized to spread awareness regarding the G20 meeting, which is coming up in September. The centre has sent a proposal to UNESCO nominating Charaidio Maidam as a World Heritage Site during a
मैं देश भर के युवाओं को अपील करना चाहता हूं कि नेताजी को जानना है तो नेताजी की दोनों यात्राओं को ध्यान से पढ़िए। देश के लिए कोई एक व्यक्ति अपने अल्प आयु के अंदर क्या कर सकता है, इसका एक उत्कृष्ट उदाहरण था जो नेताजी ने एक पूरे विश्व के सामने रखा है। मैं इस पर आपको बाद में बताऊंगा। नेताजी के लिए देश का सम्मान, देश की जनता के प्रति ईमान और खुद के स्वाभिमान से बढ़कर कुछ नहीं था। मित्रों, मोदी जी ने अंडमान निकोबार द्वीप समूह में आज जो दो चीजें की हैं, वो दोनों चीजें, दोनों कार्य अंडमान निकोबार द्वीप समूह को भारत के आजादी के और आजादी के बाद भारत की सुरक्षा के इतिहास में स्वर्ण मंडित अक्षरों से लिख दिया है। वैसे ही अंडमान निकोबार, उसका इतिहास कौन जानता नहीं। यहीं पर आजादी की तीर्थस्थली जैसी सेल्युलर जेल है, जहां वीर सावरकर ने अपार यातनाओं को सहते हुए कभी न झुकने वाला जज्बा दिखाया था, जहां पर अनेक सन 57 से लेकर सन 47 तक, 1857 से 1947 तक अनेक कैदियों ने यहां रहकर आजादी के आंदोलन की तपस्या करी थी। पूरे देश के युवाओं के लिए मैं हमेशा कहता हूं, इस सेल्युलर जेल एक मॉन्यूमेंट नहीं है। देश के युवाओं के लिए आजादी के आंदोलन का एक तीर्थ स्थान है और वही जगह पर जब तक लोग आज अंग्रेजों के परेशानियों से, उनके जुर्मों से तप्त आजादी के लड़ाकों को यही भूमि ने मां की तरह सांत्वना देने का काम किया था। और इसके साथ साथ अंडमान निकोबार का एक द्वीप समूह वो सौभाग्यशाली भूमि है जिसको पूरे भारत के अंदर सबसे पहले आजाद होने का गौरव मिला। 30 दिसंबर 1945 को हमारा अंडमान आजाद हो। मैं तो जब भी ये भूमि पर नेताजी ने ध्वज फहराकर अंडमान को स्वतंत्र करने का काम किया था और आज वहीं पर नेताजी की स्मृति में एक द्वीप पर स्मारक बन रहा है। देश नेताजी के उपकारों को, उनके ऋण को कभी चुका नहीं सकता, मगर हम एक छोटा सा प्रयास तो जरूर कर सकते हैं। उनके जीवन से, उनकी वीरता से, उनकी देशभक्ति के गुण से नई पीढ़ी सीखे, ऐसे स्मारक बना सकते हैं। वो काम आज मोदी जी ने किया है और मैं इसके लिए अंडमान निकोबार द्वीप समूह के सभी नागरिक भाइयों बहनों को बहुत बहुत बधाई देना चाहता हूं। इस सप्ताह के अंदर जैसे अभी छोटे से वृत्त चित्र में आपने देखा, मणिपुर के मोइरांग में जहां पर नेताजी ने हिस्सा भी जीता था, बारडोली सूरत जहां नेताजी अध्यक्ष बने थे, कोलकाता जहां उन्होंने पहली बार मेयर भी बने, स्नातक की डिग्री उपाधि भी हासिल की।
Hello and welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. The politics around the surgical strikes is back in the mainstream as Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra winds through Jammu and Kashmir. Senior Congress leader Digvijay Singh has questioned the